Hey, what's happening, Miami Dolphins fans? Welcome back to the Fins Up Network. It's Ben Morgan, and in today's video, we're sticking with the theme from the latest video as well, and that is training camp position battles for your Miami Dolphins. In that latest video, we broke down the position of running back, and in today's video, we're handling a little bit more of a controversial position, and that's the offensive line, because not only are there question marks as to which guys are going to make the team's final roster, but there's question marks aplenty about who's going to make up this team's starting five guys. So my homework assignment for you today, Dolphins fans, as always, can't have the lazy listener. Got to keep you active in the comments below. Let's hear your top five. Left tackle, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle. What is your ideal starting five for the Miami Dolphins heading into the 2022 NFL season? And if you haven't done so already, make sure that you are subscribing as well. And just like I did in the latest video a couple of times, I'm going to be popping up a graphic with some options. I'm going to show you that graphic right now. But it basically lays out some of the projected starters that I have, some of the projected backups I have, and then guys that are battling for a backup role or even for a roster spot in general. But let's get started with that projected front five, because based on what we know, what we've heard, what we've seen so far, we really don't know too much. We have clear answers at left tackle and likely center. Left tackle, obviously Terron Armstead, because you bring in one of the best left tackles in the NFL, you're not going to move him around to different positions. The Miami Dolphins finally solidified the spot. They're going to leave him there. And then we got to look at the reports that in OTAs and the mini camp earlier, Connor Williams was told, hey, you're going to be playing center this year. So we got to factor that in as well. Obviously, he played left guard at a very high level for the Cowboys leading up to that. So some controversy already with that. But as of now, we got to pencil in Terron Armstead. We'll pen Terron Armstead in at left tackle and then pencil in Connor Williams at that spot at center. But I feel like we can also sort of assume Robert Hunt as the team's starting right guard. But there are definitely some scenarios that can come into play where he could find himself starting at right tackle with another potential player starting at right guard. But with the safe money being on Armstead at left tackle, Connor Williams at center, and Robert Hunt at right guard, that leaves two areas where starting competition is on the line throughout training camp and throughout preseason. Obviously, that being left guard and right tackle. And I personally see the team experimenting throughout the offseason with training camp, with the preseason, with different offensive line combinations. See what sticks, see what has success, see what doesn't work. Make sure you run into a scenario that you don't want to get into. But as of today, between those two positions that we're considering vacant, I'd likely say that the top three guys to fill in those roles are Liam Eichenberg, Austin Jackson, and Michael Deiter. Now let's look back a little bit. Earlier into the offseason, we knew the team was going to bring in some guys this offseason, and they did with Armstead and with Connor Williams. But it wasn't as many as a lot of fans had hoped, and Mike McDaniel wasn't shy about that either. He said, yeah, we're going to make improvements, but at the same time, this unit doesn't need an overhaul. And I think that's just because he has faith in these young guys. Liam Eichenberg is 24. Austin Jackson is 22. Austin Jackson will be 23 in August, so by the start of the year, he'll be 23, but still super young. And not only these guys brought in just to compete for roster spots, he likes what he has there. He apparently likes what he has there, and these guys are going to be competing for starting positions on the Dolphins' front five this year. Now, let's dive into some more talk throughout the offseason, because Mike McDaniel made it a specific talking point at one point to talk about how impressed he was with the reps that Austin Jackson was seeing at right tackle. So if we look at who realistically has a shot for that right tackle spot, obviously you got Austin Jackson, you got Liam Eichenberg, and you probably have Robert Jones. I'd like to throw a couple of those other young guys into the mix, but at this point in time, based on what we know, I don't think I can put anyone else into that category at that point in time. So with that, just for me, based on right now, I'm going to give that right tackle spot to Austin Jackson, leaving Eichenberg, Deiter, and Solomon Kindley as the most likely options at left guard. Now, if we look at who's played guard for the Dolphins before, obviously Deiter has played guard, Kindley has played guard in the past for the Miami Dolphins, but I think we've got to put stock into the fact that the Dolphins want to see what they have with Eichenberg. They spent a second-round pick on him last year. They're going to want to see what they have there. So while I think it'll be between those three for that starting left guard spot, I'm going to, at this point in time, give that spot to Liam Eichenberg. Keep in mind, it's early. It is early July. We've got a lot of offseason to go. We've got training camp. We've got preseason. Injuries can happen. We've got a lot of time left. But I at least want to throw some options out there as we get closer to training camp. So let's look at some of those backup options. I want to throw that back up here again, because now we're going to look at some of those guys that are as projected backups and those that are battling for a backup role roster spot. As you can see there, I've got 3 guys listed as projected backups. So with that, obviously, the Miami Dolphins are going to need more than 3 backup offensive linemen. I get that. But I can't say with much certainty right now that any of the guys listed below there that are battling for a roster spot, battling for a backup role, I can't say with certainty that any of those guys are a lock to make this team. Larnel Coleman has good size as a 7th rounder in last year's draft. Speaking of guys with good size, Blaise Andries, huge guy, undrafted free agent out of Minnesota. He runs like 6'7", like 335. Very intriguing guy. But if we're looking at undrafted free agents, my attention goes to Kellen Diesch as a guy that has a spot to stick on this roster. And if not stick on the roster, practice squad at the least. I did a video on Kellen Diesch shortly after the Dolphins signed him as an undrafted free agent. And if you haven't checked that out already, go back, find that one. I got good stats in there, good stuff about his pros, cons coming into the league, what he did in college, how he projects to the NFL. But he's a good player. Miami signed him to a decent-sized contract for an undrafted free agent. He didn't give up much in college in regards to sacks or pressures. He's just not the prototype guy for the NFL tackle position when you think about his size. He's got short arms. NFL scouts had an issue with that. He goes undrafted. It happens all the time. Not too often you want to take a chance on the outlier, but as an undrafted free agent, you can kick the tires a little bit. Maybe he has a chance to move inside to one of the guard positions. We'll see how that plays out throughout training camp. But regardless, the talent is there for him to potentially make this roster, or at the very least, land on the practice squad. Now, I want to look at some of those remaining options as well. Greg Little, you want to have faith in this guy. He was a former early 2nd-round pick just a couple of years back. I think it was in the 2019 draft. But man, he couldn't earn a shot on last year's offensive line. What that tells me is I can't hold my breath for this year's offensive line. So while you want to hold out hope for a guy like that, you can't hold your breath. And the final 3 guys I had on that graphic, Adam Pankey, Kion Smith, Cole Banwart. Pankey's hung around last couple of years purely as that backup, maybe extra lineman in certain packages in that role. So yeah, he has a shot to retain that role, to maybe hang around in that backup role. But Kion Smith is another candidate to potentially earn like one of this team's final roster spots, maybe a practice squad spot. There's just not a lot of film out on a guy like this. His final season at college, because of COVID, final year in high school, didn't get to play because of injury. There was just not much to go off on him. And Cole Banwart, to wrap things up, sorry, he's probably got about as good of a shot of making this team as I do. But seriously, he's probably a practice squad material guy at best, based on at least how I see the roster shaking out. But that's what I've got for today, Dolphins fans. I'm curious, like I said, in the comments below, I want to hear your dream 5. What's your ideal 5 from left tackle to right tackle for the Miami Dolphins? And if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribing. But until next time, Miami Dolphins fans, fins up.